What is happening, all you YouTube warriors out there? Range day, bro, back at it again. And today I have a sad one for you guys. I killed my dead air Sandman S. Let's get into it. Alright, so as you can tell by the intro, I have a sad video to post today, but I just wanted to walk you through what happened today with regards to my Sandman S that I have sitting at the range at Austin because it's still in ATF jail awaiting my paperwork so I can bring it home to its loving family. But for those of you that don't know, if you are in the market for a suppressor in a state like Texas, you can actually have your suppressor sent to an FFL dealer that actually has a range on property. Therefore, while you're waiting for your paperwork to come back, you can go to the range and use your suppressor during that 6, 8, 12 month long period when you have to wait for your Form 4 and your tax stamp to return. So that's what I've done with one of my 3 suppressors I'm waiting for, that one being the Sandman S. What happened today was me and some friends from around the block were going to the range to try out some new guns. A friend of mine had a Draco, this guy had that gun, and so on and so forth. And I was busting out my 300 Blackout little backpack truck gun that I just recently reviewed, just to try out a new buffer weight in here because I was having some issues with it cycling with some of that cheaper Russian ammo. Speaking of the ammo ban, that cheaper Russian ammo is a little underpowered at times, so I was having a little bit of trouble with the Law Tactical folder, and I had a T2, a Spikes T2 heavy buffer in this guy, and that was causing my Russian ammo to not have enough oomph to cycle the AR pistol reliably. So what I did was I swapped it out for a standard weight buffer, and I was taking it to the range to try it out and make sure it functioned. We get to the range, I give them my ID. The fine folks at the range at Austin always take care of me. They ran back, grabbed my suppressor, brought it to me. So we went to our lane and we got ready to shoot. And as we were, I threw my suppressor here on the Dead Air Chemo Micro brake that we have here on the end of this Ballistic Advantage 10.5 inch barrel. And at that time, I tightened it down. For any of you guys who have used the Dead Air Sandman, their Chemo, you know it's a ratcheting type system that utilizes a taper here. This angled edge, this angled slope is the taper. And I ratcheted it down to when it was tight, but I didn't really give it that extra last bit of muscle because I had an issue one time with my Dead Air Sandman carbon locking to one of my AR pistols. So I had kind of PTSD from that because we had to really crank on it in the shop and put it in a vise, and it was a bit of a pain because actually the muzzle device had unthreaded when we were trying to crank it off. So it turned into a bit of a debacle, but I had a bit of I have a bit of cold feet from that experience. So when I tightened this guy on, I got it to where it was snug, and then I just let it go instead of giving it the extra bit of security torque that I probably should have. I definitely should have at this point, knowing what I know now, because I wanted to avoid having to send it to the gunsmith to get it pulled off again. So with that being said, first 5, 6, 7 full mags were completely fine and no issues at all. The second I handed it to my friend for him to try it out, first couple rounds were good, and as I was watching him, I heard the tone of the shot change just a bit, and then I noticed that there were sparks flying out of the front of the suppressor, and also that the target was looking like it was getting hit by shotgun wads rather than a bullet point. So at that point, I had a feeling something was wrong. He probably ran another 3 rounds through it before I stopped him because my brain was taking time to process what was going on because obviously I've never had a baffle strike on my suppressor. After he had stopped shooting, I went up and I had a really bad feeling in my gut. And as I looked over and just took a look at the front of my suppressor, it was all mangled, and just at that point my heart sunk because I've been waiting. It's been over 8.5 months, going on 9 months now, since the ATF has cashed my check. So I'm right around that time that I think people are getting calls to take their suppressors home, and so I had an immediate sinking and horrible feeling because what is typically my meditation, my fun, and a great day at the range kind of turned south real quick on me because of that. And I just wanted to give you guys all a little warning out there. I know as good as the Chemo mounting system is, I've never had to check the Chemo before to make sure that it was still tight, but that's also because I've gotten it tight and given it that extra little shimmy, that extra little security of a torque on it in the past. And so I've never had to check it as I'm shooting, but I don't have a suppressor cover, obviously, because it's still sitting over there at the range. And also I don't have a tactical oven mitt. So I wasn't checking it. And after that 8 mag, about halfway through, it must have worked its way loose. Now, whether the collar was jacked up, or maybe that was my doing, I'm not exactly sure. However, the guys at the Range of Austin have assured me that Dead Air has some of the best customer service in the industry, and so they said the turnaround time could be anywhere from 3 weeks, being extremely optimistic, to 6 weeks is what they've seen typically out of Dead Air in turnaround time. So that's very good to hear. That was a bit of a breath of relief when I heard that, hopefully, and I'm sure that the suppressor is within repair condition. They can just clean it out or do whatever they got to do to replace those baffles, and then I won't have to wait for an entirely new serial number or new tax stamp or anything like that. So that's the silver lining. I am going to go back on Thursday and see the gunsmiths over there and just make sure 100% that this ballistic advantage barrel and my brake here, which I've used timing shims, you don't ever want to use a crush washer when installing a muzzle device for suppressor, because of the potential for baffle strikes and it being off of the bore center line. So I am going to go back to double check that this bore and this muzzle device and everything is concentric, which I have no doubt it is. I believe it was just lack of me tightening it down enough, and maybe just a lack of lubrication on the collar and it not being smooth enough. But that's what happens when you go to the range and you don't have your tools and your cleaning supplies there, and you just shoot a suppressor over and over and over again. You hardly get to, you don't get to clean it at all. So maybe it was a combination of those two things. I'm not sure. I'm looking forward to Dead Air's response and what they send back to me about what they believe the issue was. But we're going to make sure that the bore is concentric on this Ballistic Advantage 300 Blackout barrel, just to ensure that it is, so that when we send it to Dead Air, we could tell them, hey, we checked the concentricity and it's good to go. So I'm not going to touch it. I'm leaving it as it is. I'll clean it, but besides that, I'm not going to mess with anything. I'm going to leave the barrel and the upper exactly how it is, and see what the gunsmiths say when they have their concentricity rod. So in my recent series, I'm going to be talking about AK versus AR, and that's when bore concentricity comes up a lot, in fact, because it's typically assumed that if you have an AR barrel from a reputable manufacturer that it's concentric bore. I would say it's typically assumed because it just is 99% of the time. And on something like an AK, where the AK gets the bad rap, is that not all of these barrels come suppressor ready, because a lot of these are not, in fact, don't have threads that are concentric to the bore. And so suppressors that are specific for the AK, like the Wolverine that Dead Air makes, has some tolerances, as my understanding, that there's some tolerances that are built into that so that it's not as big of a deal if you do have a barrel that's a little bit off, because the AKs are typically foreign made and don't have that inherent quality that most AR-15s have nowadays. I say nowadays because we are living in the golden age of firearms. So I just wanted to share that news with you. Hopefully you guys never have to sit in my seat and experience what I experienced today. It is an awful feeling, but I just wanted to put that on your radar and let you guys know a little bit about what I learned today. So hopefully this was helpful to you, and again, hopefully this never happens to you. If you enjoy these videos, please like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, stay safe, stay dangerous. Range Day Bro, out.